Recorded at Get a Grip Studios in Toronto, Canada, a Get a Grip management production and in association with the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Financially supported by the good folks at the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, this is Restoring Darkness podcast.
This episode of Restoring Darkness is brought to you by Evluma. If you're serious about contributing to the reduction of light pollution, go to evluma.com, hover over products, and click on Dark Sky Friendly Lighting. Both the OmniMax and AreaMax lights are International Dark Sky Association certified. The warmer color temperatures of the OmniMax reduce the more easily scattered blue wavelengths, which contribute to glare and sky glow. With AreaMax lights, you get full cutoff, which also means no uplight and a significantly reduced contribution to sky glow. And all of Evluma's outdoor lighting product lines come with dimmable drivers for even more control. If your customer is looking for dark sky-friendly fixtures with energy savings while still meeting the demands of decorative lighting, look no further than Evluma. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of dark skies.
Welcome back, folks, to the Restoring Darkness podcast. On today's show, I have Thomas Herrholz. He works for a company in Germany called Dark Sky GmbH, separate from the International Dark Sky Association, and they develop techniques to activate obstacle lighting only when they are really needed for traffic. It's super interesting. So in Germany, the increasing number of wind turbines, and I think this is, around the world, really, it's not just a German problem. With the increasing number of wind turbines, there was a problem with the air traffic indicator light on the top of the wind turbine, kind of being a nuisance and a source of light trespass for people in the area. So they've created a solution that is energy efficient. It turns off the light 98% of the time, and it only energizes when obstacles are in the area. So you're not illuminating for nothing. Obviously, this is a very technical space. We're going to get into that a little bit. So we're not going spiritual on this one. We're not going crazy. We're going to talk about a unique solution to the problem of darkness restoration and darkness preservation. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello.
So before we even start getting into this, how did the problem arise, and how did it become to be acknowledged as something that needed to be fixed?
Yeah, it's just a question of acceptance of wind energy problems. That's the problem that we have here in Germany, because in the early 2000s, there were a lot of new wind farms erected, and we don't have so much space here. So often you are in the vicinity of some kind of villages or something. And the problem was that when the wind turbines reached a height of 100 meters in Germany, they must be illuminated of some kind because of air traffic. And every single turbine was seen as one single obstacle. So everyone had a light on top, which is flashing, red flashing at night. And so we became a lot of, let's say, lighthouses in the landscape. And everyone was flashing, and this became a huge problem because in the early days we talked about 2,000 candela, which is the lights that we used that day. Today we have a little less. We have 100 candela per turbine, but it's still a lot of light. So we have searched for a solution to fix that.
Did the problem arise because of residents in the area complaining? Was it It was from the people complaining that the wind turbine lights are annoying them?
Yes, sure, because at night it was very clear visible that they have turbines around and they are flashing all night. That was something that they were not used to have, and they complained about that. And they started to work against new projects. That was the main problem for the developers.
Isn't that interesting how, we move forward into these new worlds, and we seem to think that our solutions to problems will be seamless without any obstacles. And, with the whole deployment of wind, it turns out that there's a host of problems. I remember 15 years ago, people thinking of wind turbines. If you wanted to look like an energy efficient company, you tried to associate with wind turbines in the background to give you the feeling of energy efficiency or whatever. And now I think, wind turbines have moved from a magical unicorn that's going to save us all to the position of where a lot of people that live in areas where there are a lot of wind turbines don't like wind turbines a lot, actually. There's a big movement in Ontario to stop the development of wind energy. So we have to be very careful that we listen to residents, because otherwise bigger obstacles come up with these problems, Thomas.
Yeah.
So the flashing light on top, especially with a flashing light is even worse than just a constantly glowing light. What is the technology? Like, how did you devise a system that was both safe for air traffic, because it's critical when there's a plane crash, it's really bad, and also was reliable enough to use? How did you guys conceive of it? What kind of technology is it?
Yeah, we have used several technologies already. So we started with radar, which is very simple, old technology, about 100 years old. And we have just used standard radar systems from the military, also from civil aviation. There are some radars that you can just use. They are big, they are complicated, they are expensive, but they do the job very well to detect aircraft. And I still think that's the safest version of doing this. Later or now in Germany, we are also using transponder signals, which is what you maybe know as ADS-B. So aircraft normally transmitting their position, their height, and some other data through a radio signal, and we are just listening to this radio signal, which is a little bit special because we talked a lot about safety of these technologies, and not every country will accept this. But in Germany, we have new regulations that every aircraft has to use ADS-B at night, or at least mode AC transponder signals. So we have something that we can listen to. And depending on these signals, we have now a, let's say, landscape of aircraft around, and we can switch the light. So we are using radar and nowadays transponder technology for that.
Hmm. And how long has it been deployed in the field? And yeah, I'll just ask that question. How long have you been using these systems?
Our first project in Germany was built in 2014, was in operation in 2015. This was a radar-based project. And the newer transponder systems are now in operation since 2020 or 21. So there was a first phase, let's say, where we have a few pilot projects in Germany, and also where this was just an option that you can use. And this was mainly with radar technology. But now we have a big step where everyone is so now it's mandatory to do this. We have a deadline until the end of next year where everyone has to install such a system. So we have now a lot of competition in this field, a lot of companies that are doing these services. And this has really started in 2021. So I think the first installations in the transponder business, there were pilot projects earlier, but in the large numbers we have started in 2021.
From as a lighting professional, I work in the lighting industry every day. We use lighting control systems. We use it. Technically, I don't see the problem as when you describe it. It reminds me of Uber. Uber uses some sort of existing technology to say, this person is here, this person is here, bring these two people together at this point and take this person over there. And it's actually not that difficult to concept. And then on the technical side, turning lights on and off, de-energizing a light is a very simple thing to do. We have light switches, we have different kinds of controls. So I'm going to ask you, what type of technology are you guys using to not to see where the planes are, but to de-energize the lighting systems? How are you doing that?
Yeah, that's kind of complicated because these lights cannot be switched on and off because they are not
Oh,
steady burning, so they are flashing, and they are sometimes also complicated systems with communication between the lights. They have GPS synchronization in the back so that they are all flashing in the same pattern. And also it depends very much on the supplier of the light. So there are many brands on the market that provide these aviation lights, and from type to type we are using different technology. But I think you can divide into main categories. First is that we are using bus systems like Modbus, for instance, so that there's let's say, an intelligent interface that we can use, like an Ethernet port or something.
Sure.
Yeah, where we have network communication to the device and send just messages to switch on and off. Or which is more with older systems, is that we have simple relay contacts that switch them on and off somehow. But for this, they must provide some kind of interface that we can use. So an input or something to switch on and off.
So, like most innovation today, you're solving a software problem.
Yes, mostly it's software, especially between the detection and the switching of the lights. There's a lot of software because we have to be fail-safe. We have to store data, save data, send data to some data centers. So there's a lot of software involved.
So the wind turbine itself could be operating on wind turbine X.1 software, and then your system is in another software, and there's another wind turbine with a different software, and you have to be able to speak seamlessly with those different wind turbines.
Yeah, it also involves the software on the lighting system itself, because this is a complicated system that often there are battery backups and, as I said, GPS synchronization, some sensors. So there's also software on the light itself, which is involved.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? It seems like there's a I was reading an article about app-based programs on your television, okay? So when you go to switch on Amazon Prime and watch, or whatever streaming service, and watch a video on Amazon Prime, between your TV, the router, the cable that thing's internet, all the way back to Amazon servers, there's more possible things that could go wrong than subatomic particles in the universe. Like, that's how complicated these things can be sometimes. But you know what? 99.9% of the time, you can watch your show on Amazon Prime. And so while we always think of what could go wrong and why we shouldn't solve problems, I think that there's a way to do this safely and deploy it safely if we have the will to deploy. Let me talk to you about the regulatory aspect of this. Now, when you say 2015 and now you're deploying widely in 2021, that's actually really fast to get the regulations through, especially in a European country where it seems like everything takes forever in Brussels and the European Union, and there's so many levels of government. How did you guys get the regulations in, and was there an actual strategy that you used to kind of expedite that?
Yeah, we have started much earlier. So there was one big project in Germany where a lot of companies were involved, which called HIVUS. I can't give you the right translation for that, but it was everything around aviation lights for wind turbines. And it was a kind of an R&D project that took place in 2007, 2008. So that time we made the first, we have collected the first ideas. We have thought about radar and transponders and all these things, and there was a report in the end where we have collected everything as the business, so as the industry. We have collected this and presented this to the authorities. And in the first years, they were very reserved about that, so we're not happy because it's aviation. You don't change things so often.
Heavily regulated industry, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. But it was obvious that it's a good idea because we can reduce light pollution, we can better the acceptance of wind energy. So it has taken some time, but so we have started with the first radar projects, and we have just done them. Often we have made pilot projects on our own cost, and have just shown them to the people. Have said that you just have to allow this, and then we can do this. So we made pilot projects with special permissions So we have talked and done a lot of things in this area. But then in 2020, a lot of things have happened on the political side because politicians have thought, what can we do for better the situation in the renewable market, produce more renewable energies? What can we do for wind energy projects to make them more accepted? And then they have recalled these old ideas about active detection and lighting control. And so they, from their side, have made a big approach and made some law, first for the use of transponders, also for the use of the system, which is now mandatory for most of the projects. So there was one big point in, I say, 2020, I would think, where everything has changed a little bit, and politician has started to work on this.
So the political will was so. What year did you start working on the pilot projects and getting the special permissions? How long ago was that?
I don't remember every date, but I think the pilot project to work on this project has started around 2010. I think it was around 5 years from start to the end until it was finished. I know that in this first project that we have done, I think there were several technologies involved. So we have
Hmm.
started with the one radar, and then later we
Hmm.
had another solution, and in the end we ended up with the system that we have used for the first project. So there were also generations of technology involved in this.
Hmm.
That's why I remember that is why I remember that has taken so long.
Well, I think if thinking, putting my entrepreneurial cap on and thinking like
Mhm.
in that spirit, it starts off with, we want clean energy. We want people to accept wind turbines. We need to listen to them because they're important too. They're stakeholders, and we want to put it in their neighborhoods. And a software guy or a lighting guy or a wind turbine guy sits down and goes, couldn't we just turn these off 98% of the time? We studied this, and look, there's never planes. There's never even been a plane flying over here ever. I mean, I think I saw one that was close to it or whatever it is, right? And it starts off like that. And then people start working towards these solutions. And next thing you know, 12 years goes by. And now you're in mass deployment of something that's environmentally friendly, benefits, society through the creation of clean energy, is respectful to the residents in the neighborhood, people that live around those things. This is a beautiful thing you guys have created, and we're able to work on with a plan and a long-term vision. And I'm really, really happy to hear about it. I want to know more about the industry relations piece because you mentioned that about how you lobbied the government and went to them and pointed this out and asked for special permission. Was it just Dark Sky GmbH, or was it a group of companies that got together and did this?
Yeah, it's definitely a group of companies. In Germany, we have a wind energy association, and within this association, there's a working group that just deals with aviation lights, and they have started to think about a lot of technical aspects and solutions. So first, we have started to introduce GPS to the industry so that we control the flash pattern by GPS, which makes it possible to synchronize turbines which are on both sides of the street,
Mm.
let's say so.
Mm-hmm.
Because originally you have synchronized the turbines to something that you have, maybe just the starting point of your sequence,
Sure.
which is somewhere. And now you are going with the GPS signal, which is dependent on the time, an
Mm-hmm.
exact GPS time. So we can synchronize turbines all over the world, or all over Germany at least. This was one of the first things we have, let's say, invented in these groups. Then we
Mm.
later have talked about a new type of light, which is optimized for wind turbines in Germany, which is a wider beam spread, less light. Things like this was these are always discussed in such a working group, and also the idea of BNK, what we say in Germany. So it's a bedarfsgesteuerte Nachtkennzeichnung, or ADLS in English, which is aviation detecting lighting systems.
Okay.
Um, this was coming from a group, and as I mentioned this project in 2007, 2008. This was one of these things that we have done together. to bring this into the public discussions.
So, did you reach out to the aviation regulatory bodies or the aviation industry and work together with them so that it was joint, like they were approving what it was you were doing from their perspective as well? Was that part of building a consensus to this?
Yes, sure. And not only for ADLS, also the other things that I mentioned were discussed with the aviation authorities, like the GPS or the special light. All these things have to be discussed with them, and also the ADLS in the end. So they have participated in most of these discussions and given feedback. For instance, in the beginning of ADLS in Germany, radar frequencies were a really big problem because the radar sensors that you can buy were normally in the L band, which is more military use. So we had a big problem with them, and we have searched together for other frequency bands. So in the end, we ended up with the X band, which is more public and more easy to use. And these are discussions that we have with them together. So just with the goal to find a good solution for everyone.
You know, the multiple blinking lights, like if I was living in that neighborhood, I'd say at least make them blink together on the same pattern and they're not blinking all the time. You're blowing your brains out. It's so annoying. You know, light pollution is one of the most annoying things in the world for so many different reasons. But I live in a very big country. Okay, so I live in Canada. My country is enormous. So you can fit France and Germany into my province. And you can fit France, Germany, and Spain into Quebec. You know, so you get the scope of the size of Canada. And I think about all the roads that are unnecessarily lit for hours at a time and hours at a time when no one is driving on those roads. And I think about all the problems in darkness restoration with wildlife where, you know, birds are trying to migrate and animal species are trying to migrate. And we have all these problems. And this idea of knowing when the lights need to be on, just as a premise, never mind aviation or wind turbines or anything like that. Just if we could figure out when we need lights on and turn them off, that would be a wonderful gift to give to all living things on the planet, Thomas.
Yeah, I agree very much. I'm an engineer. I know that it's possible. You just need a good sensor, and then you control a light. It's so easy.
Yeah, it really is it's an easy problem to solve. And, you know, with software, I think, you know, hacking problems aside, you know, the hacking issue aside from that, I mean, that's not what I'm really thinking of here. But, you know, with software and not relays, not actually mechanical, electrical equipment, but if we use software, we can always have a fail on situation, right? When you're using mechanical or electrical switches, it's very difficult for the system to say fail on, fail with live electricity. It always wants to fail off, right? But with software, we can allow, if something goes wrong, we can say if anything ever goes wrong, just fail on, leave the lights on. You know what I'm saying? So we have that ability with software that we don't have with other types of mechanical switching. The key to these kinds of projects is the regulatory and the industry relations part of it. And I talk a lot with people about dark sky issues, and the association I belong to, we came up with 6 strategies for darkness restoration and preservation, and I think we missed it. Because I think the most important thing we need to handle here, Thomas, is the regulations. We have to make these interventions legal before we can deploy them. Is my instinct correct on that? What do you think?
Yes, sure. Because if we don't have any legal framework, we can't do this what we are doing here, and we need assistance from the authorities on that. And also, we need them to accept some other things around. For instance, with the transponder technology in Germany, it's very special. There are still some things that can happen which are not fail-safe. Let's say a transponder is failing in the aircraft or someone is not switching it on. And they have done a safety analysis on this, and they found out that It's not happening so often, and it's possible to use the system, and the risk is still so low that we can use it anyways. So this is something that they have to accept. You can help them, you can bring arguments, you can bring calculations, but they have to check this, they have to prove it, and you need them, and you need to make a framework for that. And that's what we are accepting or expecting in every other country we are going. We are working in some other European countries also, and the first thing we are requesting is a legal framework on that. Otherwise, you can't do business there.
So much waste is justified in the name of safety.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are against something, it's the ultimate straw man argument. Do you know what straw man argument is? It's like, they don't have to prove their point. So you
Mm-hmm.
come to a straw man argument is just, I think it's right. If I'm wrong, someone's going to email me here, but they just say safety and they don't have to prove that there isn't safety. The assumption is just that more light equals more safety. And so it's your responsibility to prove why every different possible bad outcome will not happen if you make this change. And they have no responsibility to prove that their safety argument creates other problems. You understand what I mean? The other side of the argument, nobody challenges them and say, why do you think it's more safe to leave lights on all the time? And that argument doesn't have to be challenged. Unfortunately, that's the way it is, which is why you need the regulatory framework. The safety people can just say safety, and no one's allowed to challenge them. And so you got the aviation industry, your industry, and the local and provincial or whatever it is, and federal government of Germany on board with this?
Yes, we have, and especially the federal government, because they have brought all these things on the road, the new laws, everything, and the authorities like the aviation, they just have to assist these plans, and they have done their job also. So we have everyone on board. And in Germany, we have, let's say, 80-90% of the turbines will be switched off from 2024 on, because
Wow.
we have, we think about 14,000 turbines that we have, which are lighted and which are in this age where it's now mandatory to switch the lights off. And that's most of the turbines we have in the country.
That's a
And
tremendous achievement, actually.
yeah, that is, and we are very busy with that. We are not the only company which is doing that, so
Sure.
there are some others. But just for our part, it's a lot of work, and also there are several technologies involved because every project is different, every wind farm is different. So sometimes you need one sensor per turbine, sometimes you need one sensor in the wind farm. We have also some older projects with radar still, so there's a lot of technology involved. But it's a task that we do together here in the industry.
And it's if people are listening to this, and I say it all the time, when governments act boldly and cooperate with industry to solve real problems for people, what it does is it gives the smart people who live and run businesses in that jurisdiction an early lead on new technologies. And so they're able to develop these technologies and then export them to the world and make a fortune. And I mean, I don't want to talk about making money, but Germany is one of the world's export powerhouses, and it's probably because of things like this, where industry and the people that all the stakeholders get together and try to solve a problem, and it ends up that you become a leader in that field of technology. And when you're a leader in that field of technology, guess what you can do? You can sell it to other people. And isn't that a wonderful, wonderful thing? So, how many? Let me ask you this: how many wind turbines are there in Germany? Do you know the answer to that question?
I don't really know this. I just know that it's 14,000 which have to be equipped with ADLS systems, and these
Okay.
are every turbine which is installed about later than 2005, and which is higher than 100 meters. And there may be a few thousand more, so let's say 20 a maximum or something. I don't know. I should know it, but because I'm in the industry, but I don't know the real figures.
You know what's funny? Like things like that are very difficult to know. Like how many fluorescent tubes are in service in Ontario? Well, I'll tell you this, certainly more than probably 5 per person that live in Ontario. You know, it's like millions, like these kinds of questions. You don't, when you think about the scope of some of the problems we have in the lighting industry and in the environmental world and with darkness restoration. Um, I would say that the regulatory piece is something that we could really learn over here in North America. Um, and one of the problems we have, not so bad in Canada, really bad in the United States, is that these issues tend to become politicized. And so one political party supports the issue and the other political party has to be against the issue. And that's tragic because the darkness restoration issue, I mean, the hunters and the anglers can lay down with the environmentalists and agree on this one. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can come together. Um, you know, I've really enjoyed this interview with you, Thomas, and I want to ask you, is there anything else that you think, you know, the people that listen to this show, scientists, lighting people, engineers, it's a very diverse audience. Is there anything that I've missed or I haven't asked you that you want to share with them before I let you go?
Not so much. I think we have talked about most of the things. I just maybe have to say that there are also activities in North America. I know some about that. Also, we have used systems that have developed almost, let's say, software technology that was developed in North America. So we have some partners which we are working with. So it's already a global thing that we are doing here. Also, there are these international aviation rules, the ICAO. And there are some new parts in the ICAO which talk about these things. So I think this is something that we will really export globally. But there are also a lot of countries involved, also American country or French countries. So it's not only a German thing, but Germany has started first with that. Also a little bit with wind energy itself is also something that we have done here for a lot of years and then exported a lot.
Well, folks, it starts with the regulations. So if you made it here to the end, I know I've been talking about it for a couple weeks on the show, if you're a regular listener, about that when we came up with the 6 strategy of darkness restoration. Let's see if I can name them off. Industry alignment, advocacy, training, certification, 2 more, certification, incentives, and enforcement. That's the 6 that we came up with. But I think we need to have 7. I think that adds the regulation piece before the industry alignment, or maybe it's industry alignment regulations, because we don't want to end up in a situation where we have all this great technology, but there's nowhere to deploy it. And so that goes for a whole host of traffic regulations and highway codes and different things, municipal codes and lighting ordinances and all that kind of stuff that we have to get in lined up if we want to accomplish the issue of this century for the lighting industry, which is darkness restoration and preservation. That's right. We're going to become the lighting and darkness industry. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Look no further for dark sky friendly products than Evluma. Since its first product launch, Evluma has carried 1 or more International Dark Sky Association certified models. If your customer cares about light pollution, suggest the OmniMax with shielding or the AreaMax with full cutoff to reduce uplight and glare. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of darkness.